Chapter 13. Men and Monsters. Mitsue stared at the spot where the Nocturne had been for a long time, trying to make sense of what had happened, blinking slowly, the gears of his mind spinning loose, a silver star seared into his retina. My, that was close, wasn't it? A man's voice breathed into the night. Turning his head slightly, Mitsue saw the speaker standing before the open door, the light from within cascading around his shoulders and pooling at his feet. He wore the kindler's black, but the flame over the heart was wrought in white, identifying him as a medical doctor. On his shoulder were 2 white stripes and a star, the markings of a major. He surveyed the tracks behind them without expression. His face was smooth, his hair short and flat, a brown chased with gray, medium height, medium build. In a way, his appearance was utterly forgettable, unequivocally ordinary. Yet Mitsue felt a sudden chill as the man's gaze fell over him. His eyes were impassive, a ghostly blue-gray smoldering icily behind thick glasses. When he spoke, his voice was soft and still. "Too close," he said, looking slowly from Mitsue to Olivia. "Fortunate I found you when I did. A minute more and there would have been nothing left to find." He smirked and folded his gloved hands behind his back. "Now why don't you both come with me?" Mitsue tried to meet Olivia's eye, but she only stared down into her lap, her skin paper white and paper smooth. Shock, Mitsue knew. She'd taken in all she could, the fear and the panic, death hovering over them. She'd taken it in, and she'd fought, till it was too much, till it ran the banks and overflowed, and now she was empty. He knew because he felt the same way, a sudden distance from himself where he sat on the cold metal, a sense of incongruity. The night air shivered over his clammy skin. His head felt as if it were filled with miles of empty space, and the fiery death of the Nocturne was now a green smudge in the base of his eye. "I realize from my phrasing you may have believed that a request, but I really must insist," the man persisted, gesturing towards the door. Mitsue took Olivia's hand in his and squeezed. "Come on," he tried to say, but his lips didn't move right. He struggled to his feet. Then with a great deal of effort, he pulled her up beside him. The man led them from car to car, past dark cabins where soldiers could be heard snoring faintly, till, entering the officer's carriage, he stopped before a door and slid it open and motioned for them to step inside. The interior was fabulously ornate. A floral-patterned damask sofa dominated the space, set across a gilded coffee table from 2 complementarily styled chairs. A fire burned in the neat hearth in the wall nearest the door through which they'd entered, a portrait of the pontiff surrounded by golden filigreed flames above its mantel. The man took a seat in one of the chairs and beckoned for them to take the sofa. Mitsue helped Olivia to sit before dropping down beside her. They were all 3 silent for a time. The train mumbled sleepily beneath them. A clock on the wall showed the time, 6 in the morning, still some time before moonrise. Rain began to ping off the metal roof. Tama's lights sidled past the 2 windows at the man's back, beating in the droplets against the glass. He was the first to speak, slipping his gloves off, his voice casual and unperturbed. "Dreadful things, aren't they?" he said, folding his gloves and laying them neatly to the side. "Yet not without a certain grace. Beauty, one might say." His voice was soft, barely audible above the pounding rain. Mitsue watched the man, incredulity creasing his brow, unable to believe what he was saying. The man laughed. "I see you disagree." He laid his hands on his lap, one on top of the other, and met Mitsue's gaze, his eyes a smiling, tombstone blue-gray. "Don't misunderstand me. I know well their hazard. Perilous creatures, yet so are many that live in this world. Humans, not least of all. If one may marvel at the fearful symmetry of a tiger that stalks its prey in the forest of a night, how then is this any different? Each awakens in us a primal terror, yet one is venerated, a consummation of nature. The other, well, we needn't say. How might we understand the disparity?" He laced his fingers and released a slow breath. "The answer, of course, is simple. We dread the one because we are the prey. We are the gazelle taken unawares by the shadow in the night. And seen from within, nature looks a cruel design. Her artistry, the sublimity of her technique, the maddening elegance of each careful stroke occluded beneath a veneer of terror. At least for most." He smiled again, though not all. His tone made clear where he fell on the issue. Anger twisted in the pit of Mitsue's stomach. He remembered the screams all around him as the Noctura issued from the floor, void dark, the sudden flash of crimson blood in the firelight. The way he talks about them. But forgive me, we aren't here to debate the nature of beauty. We need only speak of what we three just witnessed. The man smoothed his hair with a fastidious hand and then addressed Olivia. I take it that was your first time seeing one. She bobbed her head like a marionette, her eyes sliding around in her head. Poor thing, he uttered without the barest wisp of genuine sympathy. He regarded Mitsue, tilting his head ever so slightly to the side. Yet you seem less shaken. Perhaps not your first. He paused. In the silence, the clock continued to chip away at the time, the sound like the lonely crunch of boots in snow. A Hokken boy traveling to Sotsu. Might it be that you are Mitsue Kageda? Mitsue started at this. How do you know my name? I was there too, in Leighton. Word spreads quickly. Suffice it to say, I've heard a bit about you, about what you did. His eyes gleamed with a febrile light. Remarkable. Truly remarkable. Mitsue withered under the gaze, sinking lower in his seat. He wondered just how much the man had heard. Olivia glanced sideways at him, a question in her eyes and on her lips. But before she could speak, the man continued. It is regrettable that we had to meet under such circumstances. I am Dr. Henris Cole. He crossed his legs and suddenly cleared his throat. Excuse me, where are my manners? Would either of you care for something to drink? Neither responded. No? All right, then. From a cabinet on the wall, he took a glass and a slim bottle of red wine. He proceeded to pour it, indecently slow, his eyes never once leaving Mitsue's. When he had finished, he took a shallow sip, cradling the glass between his spindly fingers, the wine like blood on his lips.